Speed and Gwien's Deep Dives podcast is an official podcast made by Speed and Gwien with a voice made from Google's Notebook LM. Do not reproduce our podcast without permissions from the owner. This deep dive is the final deep dive of the Speed and Gwien's Deep Dive podcast, Season 1. Welcome to the Speed and Gwien's Deep Dive podcast. Today we're diving into something really interesting in modern fandom. It's about the nightmare critters from Poppy Playtime.
Ah, yes, the nightmare critters, definitely polarizing.
Exactly. It's this weird paradox where the official game stuff seems to fall flat for a lot of lore fans, but then fan creativity just takes over completely.
It's fascinating. We've been looking at, everything. Intense Reddit threads, rants, critiques, you name it. But also, importantly, transcripts from fan animations. The iUbis channel stuff is just incredible.
Right. So our mission today basically is to unpack that. Why these characters? How can they be seen as having, quote, no point to exist by some?
While at the same time, creators are building this really rich, complex side universe for them. It's like the audience stepped in where the developers didn't quite deliver on the lore front.
Yeah, that's the gap we want to explore. So, okay, let's get into it. Why are the nightmare critters, the NCs, so controversial compared to the original smiling critters?
Well, you got to start with the complaints, right?
Right.
That Reddit post title, I hate the nightmare critters, rant, kind of sums up the feeling for a lot of people.
It certainly sets a tone.
It really does. And the core argument, it seems, boils down to how they were just sort of dropped into Chapter 4.
With basically no setup.
Almost zero in-game story justification. They just appeared. Felt less like established characters, and more like generic monsters thrown in.
And for fans who really follow the lore, that immediately creates problems. Big ones. Because think about Playtime Co., the company in the game.
Right.
The lore established that the original Smiling Critters were this huge failure, right? A big controversy the company supposedly wanted to bury.
Exactly. So if Playtime Co. is trying to make everyone forget the SCs ever existed, why on earth would they turn around and make nightmare versions? It makes no sense, business-wise.
Even for an evil fictional company, it seems like a bad move if you're trying to keep things quiet.
It completely contradicts their supposed goal of secrecy. And it's not just the story logic, it's the physical details, too.
The missing staples.
Yeah, fans pointed out, every major toy line in that universe, they have certain things. Cardboard cutouts for marketing.
Voice lines.
And, crucially, bigger body versions. The BBIs, the nightmare critters, mostly missing all of that.
Which sends a signal, doesn't it? If there's no BBI, it wasn't really a major product.
Precisely. It signals a lack of investment, both from the fictional Playtime Co. and, as the critics argue, maybe from the real-world developers, MOB Entertainment, too. It makes the NCs feel kind of secondary, cannon fodder, almost.
And that feeds directly into that cash grab theory, doesn't it? The idea that they were mostly created just to sell merch.
That's the most common critique, yeah. That they saw how popular the Smiling Critters designs were, unexpectedly popular maybe, and thought, okay, quick variants, spooky versions, those will sell.
Basically, merchandise first, lore, maybe later.
Right. And what's interesting is how fans analyze the actual merch rollout. Some noted it was kind of slow at first.
Which you might think argues against the cash grab idea.
Initially, yeah. But then the argument pivots. They say the slow rollout wasn't lack of motive, just maybe poor planning. The design itself was merch-driven, even if the execution was delayed. Financially motivated first, story justified, fifth.
They built it expecting it to sell just based on the SC look, regardless of story.
And look at their role in the game. In Chapter 4, the sources argue they were kind of irrelevant.
Replaceable.
Totally. You could have swapped in mini Huggy Wuggies or just used more of those ruined critters from Chapter 3's prison section and the plot wouldn't really change. Nothing needed the nightmare critters specifically.
Which leads to probably the biggest sore spot for the community, I think. The Baba Chop's boss fight.
Oh, absolutely. That felt like a real letdown for many. People described the BBI model, the animation, as just lazy.
Just a bigger mini critter, I think was the phrase used.
Yeah, no unique mechanics, no real sense of presence. And you have to remember the context. MOB had built up hype for Pianosaurus. There was a whole trailer.
Right, and Pianosaurus had that expectation built in. So when that character gets sidelined for Baba Chops,
it felt like a bait and switch to some. Like the developers didn't respect the established characters or maybe just picked the easier, cheaper option for the boss fight. It reinforced that feeling of inconsistency.
Okay, so that's a pretty strong case against them from the lore purist side. Lack of integration, feels financially motivated, wasted potential.
A failure of official lore, basically.
Where official lore fails, fandom often rushes in. So let's shift gears. How did the community try to fix this? What theories emerged to actually make the NCs fit?
This is where you see that fan creativity really shined, applying knowledge to solve the puzzle. The most popular idea is probably the scrap pile theory.
Okay, what's the gist?
The idea is maybe Playtime Co. did design these nightmare critter concepts way back, maybe for a TV show or a different toy line that never happened.
But then the original SCs bombed.
Exactly. So the NC designs got shelved, scrapped, thrown into deep storage, forgotten.
Okay, I see where this is going. So later, when the BBI experiment started,
The scientists needed test subjects, right? Lots of them, maybe varied ones. Instead of making the same toys over and over, maybe they just pulled these old, rejected NC designs out of the scrap pile.
so they become experiment fodder.
Yeah.
Not intended for the public at all.
Precisely. It solves the why would they make these problem. They didn't make them for sale. They repurposed rejected designs for internal experiments. That explains why they're only found way down in that prison facility.
Kept hidden away.
Yeah.
Like rejects. That actually works pretty well within the universe's logic.
It's clever fan patching, yeah. And related to that, there's the simpler idea that they were just part of ongoing experiments specifically for the prison.
Like the doctor's personal projects.
Yeah.
Or guard dogs.
Kind of, yeah. Attack pets for the prison warden. Maybe the doctor running things preferred creatures that weren't tied to those failed, cutesy, smiling critters. The NCs were just private, disposable monsters for that specific environment.
Makes sense for their aggressive but limited role in the gameplay.
And speaking of gameplay, we can't ignore the practical reasons they might exist, totally separate from lore.
Right, the mechanics.
From a game design view, they do serve a purpose. First, they look different from the friendly toys, especially in the safe haven area. You need that clear visual distinction, friend or foe.
Instantly tells the player what to do.
And second, maybe more importantly, they give you a real reason to use the flare gun as a weapon.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, it's mostly just for light or burning webs.
Right. You need an enemy that specifically reacts to that tool. Otherwise, the flare gun feels less necessary. Resource management, threat balancing, it all plays in.
Good point. Before we get to the fan redemption arc, though, we should mention the tiny bit of official lore we did get. Poe the Crow smells like cinnamon.
Yeah. It's such a random detail, isn't it? Just dropped in there. But even that little bit gets overshadowed by fans complaining about the names.
Some felt they were a bit goofy.
Yeah, derpy was a word used. Raby baby got singled out quite a bit as feeling kind of low effort or just grating.
Okay, so official lore. Minimal, contradictory, maybe lazy. Gameplay reasons, understandable. Fan theories. Creative patching. But the real turnaround comes from the fan content itself.
Absolutely. This is where channels like iNubis just took the ball and ran with it. Fans constantly say they did the characters justice, that they're carrying the whole NC side universe.
So how did they do it? How did they transform these characters?
Well, think about the original smiling critters. Their personalities are pretty clear, quite simple. Catnap's the bad guy sleeper, Bubba's the brain, Dog Day is the leader, always smiling.
Standard archetypes, more or less.
Right. But the fan-created nightmare critters, they get loaded up with real emotional weight. Guilt, trauma, accountability, complexity.
Okay, let's get specific. You mentioned the animation smiling in the rain. What happens there?
That's where you really see it. It's not just plot, it's psychology. You see Mava not just as a monster, but as genuinely depressed, broken by what she's become or what she's done.
Wow.
And the big one is Baba Chops. She's struggling with intense, specific guilt over attacking Dog Day in the past.
She actually says it.
Yeah, the dialogue is powerful. She says something like, "They're not scared of you, Baba. They're scared of what you did to Dog Day. I hurt him bad."
That changes everything. She's not just a generic boss fight anymore. She's a character with consequence.
Exactly. The fandom gave her that. They demanded vulnerability, actual consequences for her actions. The horror isn't just look scary, it's recognize your own monstrosity. She matters now because of that fan-written internal conflict.
And that has to impact Dog Day too, right? The hero figure.
Immediately, he has to deal with that trauma. He admits in the animation that seeing Baba again dealing with all this makes it so hard for me to keep smiling. He even questions if he's just faking his own positivity now.
Whoa. So the eternally optimistic leader starts to crack under the pressure.
Yes. It adds this incredible layer. Leadership is exhausting. Maintaining hope is hard. And guess who steps in to offer comfort?
Let me guess.
Catnap.
You got it. Catnap, the former main villain, now reformed in this fan canon, comforts Dog Day. He acknowledges his own past mistakes and says something like, "Making mistakes just makes us us."
That's fantastic character development, built entirely by fans connecting those dots.
It shows growth for both of them.
Yeah.
And then Dog Day, showing real leadership, plans this whole event for the NCs and SCs to hang out together. New friends, new adventure. He even jokes about needing extra sleeping gas to protect everyone, taking responsibility.
That's the kind of character work fans were craving, and
Yeah.
they just made it themselves. It's not just the big emotional beats either, right? Even smaller details get richer.
Oh yeah, look at Miss Delight. In the fan stuff, she gets these terrifyingly specific dodgeball rules.
Dodgeball?
Yeah, but the ball is a rock-hard vessel of pain that can shatter bones. And the detail fans loved. You wouldn't even notice the blood on the ball since it's already red. Okay, that's dark. And way more memorable than her brief game appearance.
It gives her this creepy, specific menace, and even Catnap gets more personality. There's a whole bit where Dog Day basically threatens to keep him awake for a week unless he can hide properly for 30 minutes during hide and seek.
That sounds hilarious.
It adds texture. And we get that fan canon detail that Catnap smells like lavender, which is how Dog Day finds him, even with the sleep gas. It all just fills in the blanks left by the official stuff.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. The Nightmare Critters are this amazing example of, well, modern fandom power, really.
Definitely. The official game delivered characters that, for many lore fans, felt underdeveloped, maybe rushed, possibly motivated by merch potential. The lore was thin, contradictory.
Resulting in a negative reaction from that segment of the fan base.
But the designs still had something. They looked cool, they fit the aesthetic, so the fans who connected with that look just took over. They essentially refused to let the characters be pointless.
They fought to give them meaning.
Exactly. By writing in consequences, guilt, trauma, complex relationships, all the stuff that makes characters feel real and matter. Baba's guilt, Dog Day's struggle, Catnap's redemption arc. That's the fandom building the emotional core.
So here's the final thought, maybe for you listening. We've seen how fans apply their own knowledge, their own desire for story, to make these characters compelling when the official source didn't.
So what does that tell us about the future, maybe, of big horror franchises? What happens when the most engaging, the most emotionally resonant storytelling is actually happening outside the official game or movie? It's definitely something to think about.
That's the end of the last deep dive for this season of the Speed and Wayne's Deep Dive podcast. Once again, thank you for listening to this deep dive's final analysis. See you again on the next season of this podcast.